1995, when under Jim Edgar, everyone was experiencing a really severe amount of pension debt, and the question was, what are we going to do to solve this problem? They came up with a solution that everybody loved, which was to create a 50-year pension funding ramp that no actuary in the universe would have signed off on. But it wasn't just 50 years of flat payments. It was 50 years where they said, well, we're the politicians, we'll probably be gone in less than 15 years, so how about if we have really low payments for 15 years, and then rapidly accelerating, ramped up payments. And then it'll be somebody else's problem. So I'm here as somebody else. And you're here as somebody else, exactly right. So what we need to do is solve that second problem first and make sure that the pension payments are the first priority. So as governor, I'm not going to sign a budget that doesn't responsibly fund pension payments, because if I'm doing that, I'm just creating a problem for yet somebody else. But you shouldn't think that's good enough, because I'm not going to be governor forever. And we need to institutionalize a mechanism to ensure that the payments are made every single year, whether it's easy or not, whether the economy's doing well or not, whether the people in office are on that program by choice or not. That worked for the Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund, which, by the way, is the pension system that people who work in this building participate in. It works for the Texas teachers' pension system because their constitution just says it. It just says, hey, every year the responsible payment should get made, and sure enough it gets made. And those pension systems are in good shape. So let's, number one, institutionalize making the pension payment. And number two, I want to respectfully disagree with the first half of your question. Those payments are expensive. Those payments are large. Those payments are certainly a budgetary challenge, but they're not impossible. And don't let anyone tell you they're impossible. Don't let anyone tell you this problem simply cannot be solved by dint of discipline and focus and just doing the right thing year in and year out. In fact, because we're at the top part of the ramp, we're now putting in sort of, roughly speaking, ballpark appropriate-ish amounts of money. It's not like it was 8 years ago when there was massive underfunding still, and so to get up to the right number took a lot of budgetary changes. Now we're higher up in the ramp, and so it's no longer the case that massive increases are needed every single year. And I do worry a little bit that there are people who want to beat this drum of, hey, listen, the payments are just too big, it can't be made, the system is unsustainable, it's never going to work, and they want us to fall into this trap of thinking that, yeah, the thing can't be fixed. That will then cause us to not try to fix it, to not worry about making those responsible payments, and therefore to allow the debt to get bigger and bigger, and at some point, the debt gets so big that it isn't fixable. So I would say, yeah, if you look at the size of our pension debt and the size of our economy, we can do it. Our economy's big enough, we have the tools, we have the ability to access the revenue needed to actually fund these things properly. We have chosen not to do it because it was politically convenient to make that choice. And we need a governor who's going to relentlessly fight to make sure that we institutionalize a mechanism to make the payments get made every single year, and then a governor with the political courage to make the tax changes needed to make it affordable. If we actually do those two things, it's still going to be a long road, but we can get out of this. If we don't do those things, then the debt gets bigger and bigger, and at some point it becomes a problem we can't solve. So let's solve it now. Let's make that commitment now that we're always going to make those payments. And that way we can know that 10 years from now we'll still have plenty of pension debt, but it'll be less, it'll be better. People will have the sense of, oh wait, we're moving in the right direction. 20 years from now it'll be much better, and 30 years from now it can be pretty much gone. That's what we ought to do, and we can still afford it. That's what I'm committed to doing.
Can you address the attacks against you from JB?
Yes.
With the school pension, different from
Yeah.
hers, but with the school
Yeah.
pension and the legislation that you introduced
Yep.
way back when.
Yep.
Can you address why, number one, I'm curious, why did you do that back then? What was your reasoning?
Yeah.
And how, you need to combat what he's saying about you.
Here we are. So here's the story.
I want the story.
The whole thing. I'll try to keep it short, if I can. I got to Springfield 2011. The depths of the Great Recession. We had a big, big budget problem, big pension debt problem, just as we have today. I actually asked to be on the pension committee, thinking, hey, I can help find solutions. I got on the pension committee because no one else wanted to be on it. So they said, okay. Initially, in my first year, there was all sorts of pension proposals that I thought were poorly constructed, went too far. I opposed them, voted against them. Took a lot of heat. And in voting against them, I didn't say we don't need to fix this problem. I said, let's figure out a different way to fix this because these approaches aren't the right approaches. And what I believe then, as I believe today, is that the best way to solve these problems is to change our tax system, amend the Constitution, allow to have a progressive income tax, and use the revenue to properly fund the pension system. That's what I would have told you then. That's what I would tell you now. But we were also told by kind of the political powers that be, that's never gonna happen. We can't possibly find the votes to get that done until we've either made changes to benefits or made further cuts to human services and education. And I was too quick to fall for that false choice, is the truth of the matter. And I've acknowledged that before, I acknowledge that tonight. I was too quick to fall for that false choice. And in that situation, when you have the knowledge of what's right, but you're told it's impossible and you're given two other bad options to choose between, particularly if you're given those options by someone who's got their own self-interest in the conversation, the right thing to do is to reject the false choice and say, hey, I'm a political leader. I'm going to work to change what's possible so we can actually do what's right. That was an important lesson for me. And I think if you look at what I just said and look at my voting record and my conduct as a legislator and the things I've led on and fought for since then, you'll see that I've learned that lesson well. And I've spent my career since then fighting to change what's possible and make sure we do the right thing, not just the thing that the people who are kind of purveying the conventional wisdom tells you is all we can manage to do right now. I think we need a governor who's learned that lesson. And there will be people who say, listen, I can't get over the fact that you supported that bill. That's people's right, I respect that, but I would hope there will be many others who will say, I like that you learn. Because I actually have some really bad news for you guys. I'm not going to be a perfect governor. We've never had one, we never will. I'm going to become governor in January of 2019. I'm going to be a better governor in February of 2019 than I was in January because I will have thought carefully about every minute of every day and learned lessons from all of them. And I'll be a yet better governor in March of 2019 and a better one than that in April of 2019. I think learning lessons is really, really crucial, and getting in the arena to try to address difficult problems is the best way to learn those lessons. Now, if I may, I can't help but remember who's airing those attack ads. That's good old J.B. Pritzker. So what's his record on this issue? So he decided to run for governor about a year ago, and he's taken a whole series of positions on state issues since deciding to run for governor. What involvement did he have in state issues before that?
Lunches.
Anyone know?
Lunches.
Yeah, we know.
Well, he's wrote checks to buy lunches, which is great. Right? Like, he should be commended for that. Doesn't qualify him to be governor, but qualifies him to be someone who we appreciate for that. It's good philanthropy. I hope he'll be a good philanthropist in 2019. But what he didn't do is take positions on state issues. One exception. With one exception. Back in 2011, he was funding the organization that was pushing for the most extreme pension reforms, that was pushing for the bill that I was voting against because I thought it went too far. An organization that was taking newspaper ads out against me, hitting me for not being willing to go far enough on pension reform. That's what J.B. Pritzker was doing in 2011. And now that he's running for governor, he presents himself as the great hero, savior of the working person, the pension savior, who would never have taken the kind of position that I took. And when I point that out, he doesn't say what I said. He doesn't say, you know what, you're right. Here's the lesson I've learned. Here's why I did that. Here's what I learned from that. Here's what I'm doing now. He just dodges the question and declines to accept responsibility. And so the question that I find myself asking isn't, hey man, why are you a hypocrite? Because I got over asking that question. The question I find myself asking is, would J.B. Pritzker be a better governor in February of 2019 than in January of 2019 if he never takes responsibility for anything? Would he be a yet better governor in March of 2019 than in February of 2019? This to me is about more than just pensions. This is about leadership style, and quite frankly, it's about character. And I get politics. I know they're scared. I know we're going up in the polls and they had to think of something to attack me about. But I do think that we should have a governor who can look at his own decades of past and say, here's the thing I'm super proud of, and I'm glad I did it, and here's a similar thing I'm gonna do next. And here's the thing where I was trying to do the right thing, but I turned out not to have been doing the best thing, and here's what I've learned from it, and here's what I'm gonna do next time. And you know I'm gonna be that governor. I sort of worry about where JB would be on those issues. So
You
that's
need
a,
to get that word out.
Yes,
In
that
30
right there
seconds.
would be a great ad.
Yes, you
well,
need to get that
that
out.
right there would be a great ad if
30
we could
seconds.
afford a 4.5-minute ad. Let me be very, very direct about this. I will confess that I don't go an hour of a day without being told by somebody, hey, you need to get that out.
Okay. Hello.
I don't mean to make this whole evening about arithmetic, but 56.2 million is a large number. So JB spent $56.2 million so far. And so he has, in doing that, I just got a report on the way over, he's just bought $1.75 million of TV for just next week. Just next week. He spent $33 million on TV so far in the campaign. We can have our own conversation in a minute about what that means for our democracy. That's a good conversation to have, but that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm just saying that affords him an incredible luxury. The luxury of talking positively about himself while talking negatively about me. Talking positively about his running mate while talking negatively about Kennedy. Talking negatively about Rauner while also talking negatively about Trump, and doing them all at the same time. That's what $33 million of television buys you. As important as responding to this attack is, and we're working on the right way to get a response out beyond just the Civic Center of Glen Ellyn. As important as responding to this is, we can't stop introducing me to people. We can't stop in an environment where the public is still getting to know me. We can't stop saying, hey, here's Daniel. And so we're trying to be as strategic as possible about designing the right message in the right way, with the right level of succinctness and the right level of efficiency and the right level of targetedness, so that with the very scarce resources that people from across Glen Ellyn and across the state have been so incredibly generous to help us have access to, so that we've got a shot at winning this thing, with those scarce resources we do our best to respond while also continuing the job that we need to do. Because the most beneficial thing achieved by political attacks is to knock your opponent off their strategy. We can't afford to stop executing our strategy just because those attacks are important. We've got to do that while also responding. We're on it, we're committed, but I want to end by saying, I made a sort of a tongue-in-cheek joke about we've got to respond beyond the Glen Ellyn Civic Center. Don't underestimate the importance of this conversation if everyone in this room has 10 conversations.
Yeah.
Before we leave, take a picture with me, go home, put the picture on Facebook, and say, I talked to Daniel Biss tonight, and hey, a lot of my friends might be concerned about these negative ads. If you're concerned about it, talk to me, because boy, did I learn something interesting. Go home and take one of these buttons that I see a lot of buttons around the room. Thank you guys, I love you. And wear one of these buttons around. I feel awkward and uncomfortable wearing a button around, even if it doesn't have my own name on it. But you know what they do? They start conversations. They start conversations. And so I'm not saying that it's only my job, that it's only your job. It's my job too, and we're working on it on the campaign level. But if you found my response to be important and valuable, we would love your help in getting that word out. Because we're never going to outspend it. We're never going to match it. If we have a great, perfect response ad, then they're just going to switch the attack to something different. And then we'll really be out of money to respond to that one. But money doesn't buy passion. And money doesn't buy people. And we're going to win this thing because of people who believe being a part of a movement with real conversations. You're next.
Yeah, I want to thank you for helping pass the trust
Mm,
And
thank
as
you.
I say,